In round 6, Charlton Mnyasta played a brilliant game against Aaditya Dhingra, 24-95.
We have a Rai Lopez on the board, bishop a4, knight f6, castle, rook to e1, b5, bishop back. In an earlier round, one of his opponents delayed d6. Here, black goes d6, and Charlton opts for a4 instead of the main line with pawn to c3. Black responds with bishop d7, and we go back to familiar Rai Lopez structures. Pawn to d4, d2, and pawn takes pawn. And here, white goes for knight takes d4. Interesting choice. Instead, if he had played c takes d4, black would go knight b4, attacking the light squared bishop. The bishop would usually drop back in these type of positions. c5 with interesting play for both sides. Instead, white went for knight takes d4, knight e5, knight f1, pawn to c5. The knight drops back, eventually aiming for knight f4 and knight d5 possibly.
And in this position, the opponent played a very risky decision, which is still playable. B takes a4. Maybe easier for equality would have been bishop to c6, controlling the square d5, but one can understand that the higher rated opponent wanted to make the situation sharp. In this position, plays c4, another very dangerous decision. And again, because in this game, it really is all about the d5 square. So possibly knight c4, a sample variation would be this, and moving the knight to b6 and controlling the square d5 would certainly guarantee black equality. But again, as we understand, black is playing for a win, wants a sharper position with some risks, of course.
And here, black goes for knight f to d7. A bit of a mysterious move. Perhaps black wants to transfer the knight to the queen side, but clearly he is giving up the d5 square for the moment. Instead, black could have opted for a5 over here, with a nice idea of playing rook to b8, keeping pressure on the b2 pawn, and potentially playing rook to b5, keeping an eye on the d5 square, leaving the queen to do what she wants to do, perhaps going to b8 with a nice position, at least equal for black. An interesting play could follow. Instead, black went for knight f to d7.
After this inaccuracy, Charlton plays an impressive game with a lot of confidence. So the first step is to stop the knight from going to c5, plays bishop e3, and after queen b7, plays, after queen c8, plays bishop d4. I like this move very much because now white wants to move the other knight to e3, and the knight has options to go to d5 or f5. Opponent plays queen c6, rook a5. Again, tighten the grip on the square d5, and also the rook on a5. Sometimes either a queen or a rook would land on a1 and put pressure on that pawn on a6. Queen b7, rook e2, another very nice maneuver. Knight c6, rook a4, queen b5, knight d5. So now black is getting outplayed. The threats are knight c7, but now we're starting to see the pawn on c4 is starting to be isolated and cut off. Rook c8, knight e3. Exchanges are made and puts more pressure on the pawn on c4.
And finally, white gets to grab the c4 pawn, and white is up a pawn with a clear advantage. You can see the bishop on f8 not being active at all, and the knight destined to go to d5. Some trades happen, and from here on, white really plays quite convincing chess, dominating with his pieces, controlling the c file, bishop g7. White tries to shuffle the queen over to the king side, queen f3. Black plays rook to f8, defending a bit, and e5, a really nice move, opening up the diagonal towards the enemy queen with threats like knight f6 in the air. Queen drops back, knight f6 check. Black doesn't really have an option here, as if the king would move, there's a fork on d7. So black has no choice, he captures, and pawn takes f6, creating some ideas of a mating net with the pawn over there. After this, black takes the open e file, queen to f4, eyeing the h6 pawn over there. And black plays an interesting pawn to d5, allowing white to capture on h6 potentially, but that would lead to a back rank mate, as the black queen on b8 is covering the h2 square.
In this position, Charlton plays rook c7. Well, apparently queen c1 was more accurate, and it would lead to something similar as happened in the game. Well, the computer finds a very nice refutation to rook c7. Not easy to see, but black would have played here rook to e1 check first, forcing king h2. And now we can see all those white pieces lined up on that diagonal, and black would play rook e6, basically winning the pawn on e6, because now the rook cannot move as the queen is now pinned, and black would play rook takes f6 and then take the rook on c7. So probably it would end in a draw had black found that move. But luckily, black does not find this move and plays here rook e6, and Charlton plays queen c1. Now we can see the difference. The king is not on h2. That is the big difference. Had the king been on h2, the rook on c7 would still have been pinned. But now the threat, of course, is just rook c8 check. So plays rook e1, captures, check, and Charlton plays here very accurately. First g3 to stop any possible queen c1, queen f4 perpetual checks. So now white is threatening to play simply queen f8 and queen g7 checkmate. So the opponent plays g5, trying to run with the king. Another accurate move is required, and Charlton finds this move, g4. Brilliant move. Now, the problem for black is that if black plays king g6, trying to run, white just simply plays queen h8 and cannot stop the move queen g7 checkmate. Brilliant.
That gives Charlton a great victory at the World Juniors. If you liked what you've seen in this video and you want to see more of this content, don't forget to press the like and subscribe button. See you for the next analysis. Thank you.